Zastanówmy się dzisiaj nad tą całą
The death of
ideologią
calories. Let's consider this whole calorie counting ideology today. Calmly, I'm asking you, does it even make sense? Makes sense, makes sense. Of course it makes sense. I think it makes sense.
Klaskaliśmy. I oczywiście, że ma to sens.
It makes
Ja
sense
uważam,
because
że
it
ma
is
to
simple
sens.
and uncomplicated.
Ma to sens, dlatego że to jest proste.
Something
i
has to be counted.
nieskomplikowane, no bo coś trzeba liczyć.
You must
Tak,
have some
no bo
reference to know if you are losing
czy
weight or not,
chudniesz, czy nie. W związku z tym, że twój
because your
organizm
body
kupi
is a
robotę,
stupid robot, and
i
calories
można to
are
łatwo
easy to
przeliczyć.
count. Every food can be converted into calories. But the manufacturers of processed food have even taken care of that. And every food has calorie written on it. So I buy this chocolate because I just feel like eating it. And I know I'm going to burn those calories. I read 300 kilocalories and I count.
Codziennie to samo, tak?
Zrobiłem zapotrzebowanie kaloryczne.
codziennie liczysz inne?
Nie, ja panu nie przerywałem.
First, I had to do a math class to calculate my caloric needs.
Wypisałem sobie i mam.
I wrote it down, and I have 2,000 calories. That's all I can eat.
Poniżej.
If I burn more than 2,000, I will lose weight. If I eat more than 2,000, I will gain weight.
No to tyje, tak? No, czego nie rozumiesz do tej pory, bo masz takie
Nie,
oczka
właśnie,
dziwne.
nie, wszystko rozumiem, to jest,
ale
właściwie to
czekaj,
jest fenomen,
czekaj.
ja w to wchodzę.
So I eat too many kilocalories, I get fat.
Kilokalorii, no to tyję. Jeżeli zjem za mało, no to wchodzę w ten tak zwany...
If I eat too little, I go into a calorie reduction state and start losing weight.
Zaczynam chudnąć. I tak naprawdę, no oczywiście...
And very important, burning calories is about running marathons and participating in Ironman competitions.
Więc ja już się zapisałem na 2 Ironmany, 2 w tygodniu.
So I've already signed up for 2 Ironman triathlons.
Kupiłem sobie takich żeli.
2 a week because I want to lose weight fast. Of course, I also bought these sugar gels so I wouldn't die on the way, and new shoes. I will be going into a calorie reduction state twice a week. It is so simple and so uncomplicated. That's why the whole world picked up on this ideology. It is simple, uncomplicated, and ineffective. It's good that you ended up with a rational summary that it's not effective.
Do Mateusz powagi, trochę powagi. Okay?
Now, a little seriousness, okay? I know that taking life seriously is unacceptable. Some say that sober is not acceptable either. Recently, a lady wrote me a good comment. Oh, I see that you are hitting a more serious note. Cool. Yes, we are doctors after all. Who we are. I'm a YouTuber. I'm not a doctor. I will be the person here who will finally rise to the occasion and enter this serious note.
Nutę ku zadowoleniu sporej części naszej widowni.
To the satisfaction of a large part of our audience. When I hear stories like this, I always ask myself a question.
No to sobie myślę,
I think logically.
czy mój organizm ma...
Does my body have any receptors for calories?
Jeżeli kaloria byłaby...
If a calorie was important in my body and in my life,
No to w dobie ewolucji...
then in the era of evolution, the body would create certain mechanisms of coping and detecting calories.
kalorii. To znaczy,
It would look like, for example, after eating carbohydrates.
Sygnał dla organizmu, że trzeba to
Insulin is growing, and this is a signal to the body
wykorzystywać na bieżąco albo pod wpływem
that you need to use this energy on an ongoing basis or, under the influence of insulin, accumulate glycogen and adipose tissue for future times. This is a specific mechanism.
500 kalorii, no to te kalorie nie przyczepiają się na receptorach kalorycznych, tylko
If we throw 500 calories into the body, these calories do not stick to the calorie receptors,
myśl idzie taka, tak na logikę.
but remain on the packaging of the products. And my next thought goes like this.
Nie wiem, 50
I'm trying to take it as a logic. Suppose 50 grams of a donut or 100 grams of a donut have 1,500 calories.
Na moją logikę na przykład kawałek takiego drewna, jak rąbiesz drewno do...
This is the same as, for example, a piece of wood for the stove. If I were to insist now and eat this piece of wood, would those calories be burned the same way as the calories from a donut or meat?
drewna. To czy te kalorie też zostaną spalone w ten sam sposób, co kalorie z mięsa i z pączka?
Ty mnie nie pytaj, bo ja wiem, że tak.
No właśnie
You don't ask me because I know it is. Write in a comment, if I eat a piece of wood, do these calories also count the same as calories from meat?
Czy te kalorie też się liczą tak samo jak kalorie z mięsa?
A donut or, for example, Coca-Cola? Or is it different? My next question.
Czy to może inaczej? Czy jeżeli
I will go to a personal trainer or dietitian who has a fixated mind on harmful knowledge and introduces his charges into a harmful caloric deficit.
Który ma ufiksowany umysł na krzywdzącą wiedzę i wprowadza swoich podopiecznych w krzywdzący deficyt kaloryczny, no to jeżeli ja utrzymam faktycznie...
If I actually maintain this caloric deficit for the next 5 years,
Będzie tak, że w którymś momencie ja zniknę?
won't I disappear at some point because I'll just eat and digest myself?
Czy w którymś momencie moje podstawowe tempo...
Will my basal metabolic rate at some point adjust to the calorie restriction and just slow my metabolism down?
Czy czasami nie jest tak, że wejdę w tryb na przykład...
Isn't it like I'm going into starvation mode and I'm going to get cold? My body will shut down those organs and functions that are not needed for survival. My hair will start to fall out.
Zbędne do przetrwania, że zaczną mi wypadać włosy, że kobiety przestaną miesiąc...
Women will stop menstruating because the body will get a clear signal that it is not to reproduce now.
Rozmnażać, bo nie ma odpowiedniej ilości
There is not enough energy in the right form to raise and carry offspring.
wychowywania i donoszenia potomstwa. Czy to ja mówię
You convinced me. Of course, counting calories sucks.
Jasne, że liczenie kalorii to lipa.
It doesn't hold up. It doesn't follow logic or physiology.
Nie trzyma się to fizjologii, nie trzyma się to czegokolwiek, co jest takim naturalnym...
It does not stick to anything that is such a natural reflex of the body.
Spoko, nie? Że wiele lat temu...
It would still be okay if many years ago, at the very beginning, the assumptions were right and were created to help.
Żeby pomóc.
Chciałbym w to wierzyć,
No
faktycznie.
bo na papierze to się wszystko zgadzało.
I'd like to believe it, because on paper everything was right.
Założona dla słusznych idei.
In the beginning, FIFA was also founded for the right ideas.
I tak naprawdę...
And then it came out as it did, and it's the same with counting calories.
No ale okej. Dobra.
Something was created to serve man, but you do something in life year, second year, third year.
Robisz to trzeci rok. Analizujesz.
You analyze, it has no effect.
Dobra, jesteś przemęczony, przepracowany, dalej to robisz.
You're overtired, overworked, but you keep doing it.
To samo, tą samą czynność,
Without thinking,
tą samą
you do the
rzecz.
same thing,
Nie
the same
przynosi to
action.
efektu. No to zostajesz przy tym, czy robisz
It
to
has
do
no
śmierci,
effect, so will you stay with it?
przynosi efektu. No tak samo
Will
jest
you
z
do
kaloriami.
something until you die even though it doesn't work?
Oczywiście, że nie został...
It's the same with calories. I will answer you this question. Of course I wouldn't stay there. My intuition tells me that I should change the constantly losing team.
Zaczynam szukać, jaka jest
When I start looking for an alternative to counting calories, I come up with the LCHF, keto lifestyle.
I pierwsze, co mi wyskakuje...
But the first thing that pops up on the internet on this subject is 1,000 articles from portals partly sponsored by drug companies that will strive at all costs not to limit carbohydrates.
które za wszelką cenę będą...
Because big food is supposed to feed us so big pharma can heal us. We need to understand these marketing, financial and business connections to understand the world we live in.
Marketingowe, finansowe, biznesowe, żeby zrozumieć, w jakim świecie żyjemy. I ten biedny...
This poor man, who has already failed counting calories so many times, because he was losing weight, gaining weight, losing weight over and over again.
Człowieka smutnego, który
He has become such a hungry, sad man who imposes another diet on himself to punish himself for having eaten forbidden products.
kazał jeść zgodnie z zasadą 80/20.
One after another told him to eat according to the 80:20 rule. So even as he slowly began to heal from his addiction to processed carbs, someone told him to eat this Big Mac to supposedly improve his relationship with food.
I taka osoba potrzebuje nas, ciebie, mnie.
This person needs us, you, me, doctors who have walked this path themselves.
Doświadczenie z pacjentami.
We have experience with patients who say that the first thing you have to believe is that the majority may be wrong,
Może nie mieć racji, że żyjesz w świecie
that
manipulacji.
you live in a world of manipulation and influence of large corporations. And that's the truth,
Żadna teoria spiskowa. I teraz trzeba to
not a conspiracy theory. You just have to accept it and start living beautifully, in truth,
w prawdzie, w naturalnym jedzeniu,
in natural food that has a low amount of carbohydrates,
jedzeniu maksymalnie.
in eating a maximum of 3 meals and eliminating the snacking ideology that was created by the companies that produce these snacks that disrupt the sense of appetite and hunger.
Sobie poczucie apetytu i głodu. Po prostu zacząć
You just have to start thinking logically.
I to nie twoja wina,
And it's not your fault,
grubasku, że
fat boy,
przytyłaś, to nie twoja wina,
that you've gained
grubasku, że
weight. It's the
przytyłeś,
fault of
to
hormones that have been
wina hormonów,
deregulated by
które
bad
zostały
recommendations, for
zmodyfikowane
example,
złymi
caloric
zaleceniami,
reduction.
redukcją kaloryczną, a dodając do
Add to
tego
this the fact that one of the
fakt,
largest
że
studies done
jedno
tells
z
us that
większych
99.9% of
badań
people who reduce calories and are in caloric reduction
mówi nam,
suffer long-term
że
failure.
99,9% osób redukujących te kalorie i będących w redukcji kalorycznej ponosi totalną, długoterminową porażkę. No to
Why
po
do
co
that?
to robić?
Answer the
No,
question, why
powinniście
do
sobie
something that
pytać,
has
po co
not been
robić coś,
effective for
co nie
decades?
przynosi efektów już od kilkudziesięciu lat. No, odpowiedź jest
The
prosta.
answer is simple. For money.
Pieniędzy?
Skończę
I will end with a quote because I have been interested in the problem of addictions lately.
Czy uzależnień i powinniśmy
We should emphasize the fact that this is an addiction to food.
podkreślać fakt, że wbrew temu, co
More and more, I think we're moving in that direction, contrary to what the food industry tries to tell us. Because it's food, you have to eat. And that's not true.
że nie ma czegoś takiego jak uzależnienie od ich jedzenia. No bo ciągle powtarzają, że przecież to jest jedzenie, musisz jeść. Nieprawda. Wysoko przetworzone jedzenie, czy
Highly processed food, or generally easily digestible carbohydrates,
działają w taki sam sposób jak
work in the same way as nicotine, cocaine, morphine, or opioids.
opioidy.
And that's a fact.
I teraz biorąc ten fakt,
The more often you provide this food that causes you euphoria and dopamine release,
dostarczasz tego jedzenia, które powoduje u Ciebie euforię, które powoduje u Ciebie wyrzut dopaminy, tym jest większe
the greater the risk of becoming addicted and craving the stimulus again and again.
raz po raz, raz po raz. Jeżeli dojdzie
If you add an unhappy life, emotional problems,
problemy z emocjami, ból i
pain, emotional distress, and stress, it becomes an addiction.
przez tego uzależnienie.
The cause of addiction is always pain.
Uzależnienia zawsze jest ból. Odczuwany
Feeling consciously or subconsciously.
świadomie.
Addiction is a painkiller for emotions. That's what Mate says in his book,
Matę w książce,
which is an amazing source of knowledge.
która jest niesamowitym źródłem wiedzy. Trudna książka.
A difficult book, so we're going to simplify it.
Podstawy uzależnienia zawsze jest ból i cierpienie. I teraz
There is always pain and suffering at the root of addiction. Such an appeal for people who deal with food addiction or food in general.
jedzeniem. Nie traktujcie osoby
Do not treat an obese person with metabolic diseases as a person for whom it is enough to say,
no to się nie obżeraj. No to jedz mniej.
don't overeat, eat less, move more. Only usually at the root of obesity and metabolic diseases is a problem with suffering,
leży problem z cierpieniem, z bólem.
pain, emotions, and relationships. We need to find all possible ways to get to the root causes of obesity.
Korzenia do tych korzeni przyczyn otyłości.
Everything to live beautifully. This road to a beautiful life is rarely a bed of roses.
Rzadko bywa usłana różami. Nie, prawie nigdy nie bywa.
It is almost never a bed of roses. There are exceptionally lucky people.
Ale tak się nie dzieje.
But that usually doesn't happen. To start living beautifully,
Trudny, skomplikowany i często
you have to start a difficult and complicated process, often with many sacrifices,
nadal trwają, więc nie przejmujcie się.
often perennial. Our processes have been going on for many years.
Walnijcie w kciuka, słuchajcie, jeżeli macie ochotę.
It's still ongoing, so don't worry. Get started, make mistakes, get down on your knees, and get up.
Co mówimy,
Hit this thumb if you feel like it.
algorytmy podeślą ten
Subscribe to the channel if what we say makes sense.
Pamiętajcie o komentarzu. Wymyślmy w takim razie
Then soulless algorithms will send this video on.
kaloria, komentarz.
Don't leave yet. Remember to wrote a comment.
Można pięknie żyć. Kaloria.
Let's come up with some. Maybe calorie? Calorie.
Kalorie.